Fans of the Horus Heresy, thank you very much for joining me for a quick how-to video. So, what are we how-toing today? Right, you may recall, and if not, let me start at the beginning. I talked about how I wanted my Iron Hands Legion force for 30k to not carry the Imperial Aquila. So, the backstory to this is the only legion that could carry the Emperor's symbol of the Aquila with the Emperor's children. That changed after the victory of the Ulanor campaign, but prior to then it was limited to the Emperor's children. Now, although I use my models to play the Horus Heresy, which is post Ulanor, I still wanted to preserve that theme. And when I was setting out my miniatures for the on parade last week, I noticed that this Contemptor Dreadnought has got a cheeky Aquila right on the front of a sarcophagus. So yeah, I was thinking I need to do something about that. So, and let me give you an idea of what sort of insignia might be carried. So here we have the Iron Hands specific Contemptor, and we have the Imperial wings, but replacing the Aquila in the centre is an Iron Hands Legion badge with this Mechanicum cog detailing around the outside. So what am I going to do? So I guess I've got to think what I'm going to replace that eagle with, and I've not decided yet, but I've got two broad ideas. The first thing is, these are some Iron Hands resin icons, and we have a selection of clan symbols. For example, this is Clan Raukan on the right hand side. So I was thinking I could remove the eagle and place one of those between the wings. That would work. Another idea I've got at the moment is using these, which is etched brass parts, and I've got another selection of clan symbols there, but I've also got these small sized Iron Hand Legion badges. Excuse the lighting, we can see that that's about the right size to sit between those wings. So, I've not quite made my mind made up yet, but I know what I want to do in broad terms. So, what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to cut away the eagle and leave the wings. So, what tools do I need for this? Well, I think this is pretty straightforward. This is a sharp craft knife scalpel job. We've also got a blunt one to hand, just in case we might need that. Needle file, my favourite flat half curved upper surface one, and then, as always, a brush to remove resin detritus from the model. So let's begin. I guess the idea here is just to give a little demonstration of how how we can change the iconography on a model. Obviously where you've got bas relief. And having ideas like this, if you've got a strong visual theme or insignia theme you want to put into your army, you can use little tricks like this to get that consistency and change how your models look. So let's begin. I assembled this Contemptor some time ago, and before I'd actually settled on the idea of doing a 30k Iron Hands Legion, and actually I think at the time I was more thinking around a force of Crimson Fists for 40k, strangely enough. But no, things move on, and sometimes you might need to go back a bit to change what you've already done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the icon down, or the body of the eagle down, and then I'll sort of cut some away, and then I'll smooth it into the shape and form of the sarcophagus. And so this bit of removing the legs, of course, is the easy bit. Things are going to get a little bit trickier as we move into the region of the body. So, yes, so this weekend we had the 2017 Horus Heresy Weekender, which was an interesting event, although as I've said already, I couldn't go this year despite managing to get hold of some tickets. However, you know, there are plenty of guys and girls out there who report on these things, so I've seen a few reports on the various forums and YouTube, and got a feel for what's available. And if you're a regular visitor to 1D4chan, there is a fairly comprehensive article on there giving details about the army lists that are included in Book 7 Inferno. So we're talking the Thousand Suns, the Space Wolves, and of course the Adeptus Custodes, which is the eagerly awaited one. There's quite a number of miniatures that were revealed at the weekend as well. And I think it's fair to say that 2017 is going to be the year of the Custodes, and probably the Thousand Suns as well. And those two forces certainly seem to have got the lion's share of new models on show. So the Custodes, I mean, they got a wide variety of stuff. I mean, there's the vehicles that we've already seen. There was an alternate weapon turret for the Caladius Grav tank, which looked like a pair of rapid fire energy cannons. I just forget the name now, but looked very good. Another very hardcore science fiction looking tank there. And then we had what's being called the Heavy Dreadnought. Now, chatting with my mate last night, he mentioned to me that this Heavy Dreadnought has previously been mentioned in Custodes fluff, so it's not just been magicked up, it's something that's already been in the story background. So that's an interesting model, and that seems to sit somewhere between a Leviathan Dreadnought and a Night Titan. So divided that gap again, I suppose, in terms of walker size. What else did the Custodes get? I mean, there's quite a variety of. I think there was a special character which was an event-only model. He looked very impressive, and it was nice to see a complete Forge World sculpt of the Custodes. Not saying that the Games Workshop plastics aren't good, because they are, and they've done a very good job of capturing the fine detail, or the filigree as I like to call it, of the Custodes. But you know, obviously Forge World can take the detail to the next level in every instance. So that's quite exciting too. But for me, actually, the favourite unit that I saw were the Sagittarium Guard, and these guys are what you might call shooter Custodes. So it's going to be a resin conversion kit for the currently available plastics, and these guys have got, I don't know what the weapon name is yet, but they've got basically an upsized bolt gun. We could either describe it as an upsized bolt gun, or perhaps a miniaturized heavy bolter. And they are like the 5 support custodians, and they've got these neat spiked helmets. So if you are familiar with, they look like Pickelhaube helmets from the Imperial German period. So you know, sort of Franco-Prussian War and First World War, and they got a really good look to them. I think if there's one thing that would draw me into doing an army of the Custodes, it would be these guys. So I love the look of them, and you know, I tend to like units that my style of gaming is more of a range combat and shooty style. So I appreciate that aspect of their ability, which contrasts with the more melee focused models we've already seen. So yeah, and then what else do we get then? The Thousand Suns had a whole variety of models. They got, I think, Scaremet Terminators. I got the pronunciation right there. they're another Dreadnoughts, another specific Contemptor model. I don't know if that's a hero. I think there were some sneak peeks of Magnus Red, which is a nice contrast to, of course, the Demon Prince Magnus Red from 40k, which made an appearance in the last few months so that's a nice addition. And what else did the Thousand Suns get? They got a few other things as well. Oh, they got some Legion specific Castellax as well, which is a first actually. And they seem to be sort of sorcerous Castellax, or Castellax with some sort of psionic capability, which is a fascinating concept. Extra tech heresy points for the Thousand Suns there. Well done. Yeah, so they had a good look. I mean, not the sort of look I would necessarily go for myself. However, I think I can clearly see that to a fan of the Thousand Suns, they are fantastically well executed models, and they got a great look to them. And it's nice to see the idea of Castellax being created in a Legion specific configuration. So yeah, very good. What else was there? Let me think. On the rules front, there was what was it called? The Ordo Sinister Warlord Titan. So now for a mere 3,250 points, you can have an Ordo Sinister Warlord. Basically, we have a Warlord Titan with a psionic crew, or psychic crew, and that just, I mean, I've read the rules summary and it sounds utterly crazy. It'd be interesting. I'm looking forward to reading the rules in a bit more depth. Some of the stuff I read about it initially, it sounded like the balance was a little, for a mere 500 points on your basic Warlord, it sounds like you're getting an awful lot more, but we shall see. I wonder what happens if you park a Sisters of Silence squad next to that. Of course, that's not non-canonical, but from a game perspective, that's an interesting thought. Does it nullify the Titan's ability? I guess it will penalise it in all the usual psionic ways that the Sisters do. We got some new Sisters. New Sisters of Silence. They have a dedicated transport, which is wonderful, and I think it looks like the love child of a sandworm, Shai Hulud from Dune, and an MTT battle robot carrier from episode 1 in Star Wars. So yeah, fascinating looking thing. Oh, and maybe actually could throw in the navigator transport vehicle from the start of the David Lynch Dune film as well, as being its grandfather. So yeah, fascinating looking model in a really good way. I do like the look of that. I think, as well as the Sagittarian Guard, the Sisters of Silence are the thing that draw me towards the Custodes, and they appeal to me from the look and I think how the gaming style works. I just like the idea of being able to psychically nullify your opponent so potently. Yeah, so I'm now just waiting for the release date information to go up, and I will be down at Forge World on the day of release to get a copy, unless something absolutely critical gets in the way. I will be there, and I'll be digesting that and getting you guys a review up to add to the Horus Heresy Black Book series. What else we got? Yeah, I think Book 7 looks great. It's we've introduced a brand new army. We brought 2 very iconic legions to the fore. Talking of iconic legions, I think the Space Wolves seem to have been a little bit weakly represented in terms of work underway. But I think it's probably good to get some focus on the trait. I mean, interestingly, I think Games Workshop needs to, not Games Workshop, Forge World needs to put some work into improve the appeal of the traitor legions. For example, at the recent doubles championship for Horus Heresy, 80% of the participants, and I think there are over 100, played a Loyalist Legion. So they've clearly got some work to do there in increasing the appeal of the traitors, and well, I suppose the Black Shields and the Shattered Legions as well, but particularly the traitors. You know, if you just take that straw poll of the people who went to the Gaming Cup tournament, far more people are playing Loyalist than traitors. Maybe that's because people like to be good. But then again, you can have a debate about whether or not the Emperor is on the side of good, but you know, I think on balance you would say he is. Whoops, sorry there, camera. What else we got at the moment? Yeah, so I'm intrigued as to. I've also been thinking about the best way to get hold of what I'd get for Custodes army, and I think the things that I like, as I say, are the Sisters, the Sagittarian Guard. I'm a big fan of the Cronus Grav Transporter. I like the alternate weapon turret for the Caladius Grav Tank. I think that looks great as well. So I could see my force clustering on those themes if I were to buy one. And then I think I might buy up a few copies of the Calth box set. Prospero box set, not Calth, to get the plastic bodies, and then I'll sell on the other models, because I think that's probably a more economical way of doing it than buying the full sets from Games Workshop, where they seem to be charging about £35 for 5 custodians plastic in a set at the moment. That was certainly the price that were on the deals that are currently advertised on their website. Yeah, right, okay, so let's take a look at the Eagle. So you can see now how we've got rid of the body of the Aquila, and that's looking pretty decent now. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer. That's probably about as close as I can focus. There are some uneven surfaces in there, so I'm going to now take a file and I'm going to try work these smooth. Right, so while I'm doing that, let's move on to the next interesting point. What was I going to talk about next? Oh yeah, so there's an awful lot of rumours bouncing around, and there has been for some time, about the introduction of Warhammer 40,000 8th edition. Now, so I look at this purely and completely selfishly from the point of view of a Horus Heresy player, and the comparison that's being made at the moment is, will 8th edition do an Age of Sigmar to 40k? And there's been a lot of debate around that, because it was, I mean, let's be honest, the Age of Sigmar was a commercial decision first and a creative decision second, and you know, there's a good reason for it. You know, Games Workshop can't afford to be carrying products that aren't returning a decent margin. They've got, you know, they're a big business, they've got a lot of central cost overheads, and those cost overheads have to be paid and they have to be justified to their shareholders. So, you know, I can see why they did it, although I also have a lot of sympathy with the players of Warhammer Fantasy Battle who have been left behind. Many of the previous players of the previous system, and you know, you can't not sympathise with their perspective. I mean, Age of Sigmar might be good, but still, to kind of have your forces such a fundamental change imposed on you if you want to keep with the creative flow of the game is a tough pill to swallow for some. So yeah, but I don't think that will happen with 40k. I guess firstly, the amount of massive units that are top sellers for Games Workshop go against the Sigmar style approach. I mean, the best selling plastic kit ever at Games Workshop was the Imperial Knight. So there are a lot of knights out there, and if 40k went Age of Sigmar, that wouldn't be a game that would fit those knights very well, I don't think. You know, and I'm sure Games Workshop would be sensitive to you know, the people who have bought those and the success of that product, because it's made them a lot of money. I think the bottom's looking pretty good now. Not quite there yet. Let's do a little bit more work on that. So yeah, I think that's. I don't think they're going to do it. I don't know what they will do. Whenever I hear about talking about simplifying rules, I think the core rules are fine. For me, in 40k, the complexity sits almost exclusively with the special rules, and you know, let's be honest, the special rules is an enormous set of rules, and there's a lot of potential conflicts and complexity in understanding how those rules firstly interface with the basic rule set of the game, but secondly in terms of how they interface with one another and what takes precedence, what nullifies what, etc, etc. So you know, that would be although the special rules bring a lot of flavour, there's almost been like an unremitting torrent of new special rules, even in the context of Horus Heresy. I mean, I suppose that makes a lot of the game, but could those be simplified? I mean, I suppose one thing with 40k is there is, and particularly Horus Heresy, there is a lot of dice to be thrown. You know, I mean, if you've got a squad of 20 tactical marines and you want to do Fury of Illusion at 12 or less, you're throwing 80 dice for your attacks. That's a lot to throw. You know, could that be altered? I don't know. But then again, I don't necessarily think we need to simplify 40k, because 40k's already suffered a lot of simplification because it's been geared towards tournament play for quite some time. So I don't know, do we actually want it to be more simplified? Particularly in the 30k context, I would say. Yeah, not sure about that. It's looking pretty nice. It's getting there now. So yeah, I'll be interested to hear what you think about the upcoming 8th edition, how it might change the game. You know, I believe, and certainly from what someone told me on a question I put on a video about the Weekender, that I don't think we're going to have any fundamental significant changes to the Horus Heresy game, or the Horus Heresy part of Warhammer 40,000 as a result of new rule set. And perhaps, you know, I think there's some changes in the fluff which could be used to achieve the necessary results of improving the playability of the game without necessarily changing the rules. And that's probably what I'll talk about in my next how-to video, when I'm going to muse a bit about Leman Russ. Not Leman Russ, sorry. No, that's the wrong Primarch and the wrong Legion. Robotic Guilliman, or however one cares to put your inflection in his synthetic name and pronounce it. Yes, Guilliman in 40k. I think there's some very interesting potential there to stir the 40k pot up, and inject some interest, a change of playstyle into that era. And it's interesting that the thing that's, you know, Forge World seems to have led the way with creating the Primarchs and the Horus Heresy stuff, and now Games Workshop is following some clear creative follow-ons in terms of box sets with the Plastic Marines in the Heresy era armour and the Heresy era battles, and now we're seeing the introduction of the first 40k Primarch. How are we doing? There we go. So actually I'm quite pleased with where I got to now. I think just need to do a little bit here. It's not quite there yet. Just to get the bottom of the sarcophagus smooth. Still a little bit of a lip there, so I'm going to try to sand it down. something I might have used my favourite metal spike for, but I've misplaced it. So I need to try find that at some point. Nearly there. But yeah, let me know, what do you think about the upcoming 8th edition? Do you see it as a positive from the point of view of Horus Heresy? Do you think it is a positive thing? Will it be? Do you think we're going to see things that will specifically benefit the Horus Heresy? So of course, it's the first set of rules, it's the first rules revision to 40k that's taken place since the enormous success of the Horus Heresy range. So will we get, will we get some accommodation in the core rule set for us 30k players? That's an interesting consideration as well. But yeah, let me know what you think. Or if you think anything I've said is complete codswallop, please feel free to challenge me. Right, so I am happy with this now. We have got rid of the Aquila, the body of the Aquila. Now the next thing is, and this is probably for another video, I need to decide how do I then integrate in one of these icons, because I'd have to integrate it in, I'm going to have to cut away some of the wings. So I will need to think a bit as to whether or not I'm going to overlap an icon and build kind of like a boss up behind it, or whether or not to cut more of the wings away, because the wings actually look rather nice at the moment. I do like those, and the less of those I can remove, the happier I'm going to be with the final product here, or the final conversion here. Anyway, yeah, so I hope you found that an interesting little demo. Essentially just with a craft knife and a little file, taken that Aquila body away, and we've effected an interesting change on how this Dreadnought looks. Yeah, happy with that. Let's put it alongside his Legion specific comrade again. Yeah, they both got some nice Iron Hands feel to them. So he's got the mortis head there. Great. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this an interesting little demo. As I say, yeah, put your comments around 8th edition or any questions around this. I'll be happy to answer those. But yes, thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you next time, and goodbye.